Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
So that one was electronic.
So maybe we could do electronic.
Electronic to electronic rather than paper to paper.
You can trace the
I also think it would be beneficial to send a survey to students, because I think that was a big thing that we didn't necessarily expect to find, that this electronic version students aren't prepared for. So I think it would be interesting to send a survey to students, maybe asking them their thoughts about the electronic version and if they liked it better or what they struggled with. What else do you guys think?
Oh, could you find out from maybe Ms. Helton, will the next CERT test have numbers in it to make it easier for them or not? Because then maybe we could come up with some alternative if it's not going to be numbered again, how to proactively help students with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Because if we're going to retest, we want to make sure that those same errors aren't going to be, and not that we have much control over them, but we can at least see and, like you said, do
Prep
something
the
about it.
students.
I think that the slide that showed the concepts that students are mastering as well, I think it would be interesting if we as teachers found a way, like this program is really good at letting us know what students are not good at. So I think it would be good if we could find a way to take what they're not good at and implement it into our daily instruction to help them out a little bit there.
Like bell ringers?
Yeah. Yeah, so develop bell ringers based on those areas of weakness.
Right.
I like that.
And if we could, excuse me, have the student buy-in, if they could tell us, they could pull up CERT and say, oh, you know, I'm really weak on punctuation or personal pronouns. And then you give them a bell ringer on that, they may have more ownership.
Yeah, I like that too. So have, instead of us looking at the data, have the students look at the data and say, Mr. Wood, I'm really bad at being concise, can you help me? Yeah, I like that, because that does increase that ownership. And what you said made me think of like, maybe holding a focus group to even talk about with those students, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the program itself? What do they like about the program? Would they rather have teacher instruction? Because like you said, ownership and buy-in is going to be really important in this.
Makes me think back to my experience as a student. We did a different preparation program for the ACT. We did Reading Plus a couple days a week, and I remember as a student I hated it, but it really did help my ACT score. So looking back at it,
and that would be interesting to have students reflect on that. Okay. Anything else before we go on to the next one? This next one will go right. All right, so I will add those, and I'll send out the new PowerPoint for you guys to look at that and word it all good. So this next one we already completed, so it's really going to be us just reviewing, and now that it's all put together in a format. So the second research question I had was, what challenges and strengths does that cultural shift survey that we took reveal about the Shelby County High School 9th grade PLC? So I just wanted to take this survey and really see what the survey showed about where we're really strong and where we might be weak a little bit. And I know some of you focused only on our PLC when you took the survey, and some of us focused on PLCs school-wide because we're in multiple PLCs. So that's okay, so it kind of applies to us and it kind of applies to the whole school. So you guys are the participants, you know who you are. I also had our assistant principal take this, since she's often in our PLC, and then also had the instructional coach take this as well, because he's often in a lot of PLCs and can see what it looks like school-wide. So here's the survey that you took. You remember what it looks like, and I have the link up there. I chose this survey because our teachers currently feel really confident about the shift that we've taken to a PLC culture and a collaborative culture. And so I thought that this survey could really serve as validation of positive things that we're doing really well with our collaboration, and maybe even show us some things that we still need a lot of improvement in. And so you guys know because you took it, but it's divided into 7 domains, and it has 3 to 6 questions in each domain. The survey you took probably looked a lot like this, because what I feel like last time I gave a survey, I don't know if the results were truthful, because your name was attached to it. So this was a way for it to be anonymous and for me to get truthful feedback. So yours look like this. And then of course, based on the results of this, we met and we had conversations about how to improve our culture. So you guys haven't seen this yet, but here's the overall analysis of the data in this format. So our two strongest areas were the use of assessments and a shift in the work. So we scored ourselves really high in how we are using common assessments and how we're kind of dividing up the work. The ones we scored very low in was a shift in school culture and a shift in professional development. So these next slides, I broke those down, and these were the 3 questions in that domain about the shift of school culture. And so I just wrote down some of our common points of discussion and what we talked about. And so talking about long-term strategic planning to planning for the short-term win, we talked about how overall in the school teachers are collaborating for those summative assessments and for those long-term goals, but we're not collaborating as much and focusing on the data for those formative assessments as much as we should as a school. So that was the conversation we had about this. As far as language of complaint to language of commitment, we talked a lot about how teachers' voices are being heard and we are being empowered as teachers to give our voice and to put our opinion out there. But where we still need growth is that many who are voicing those opinions are not committed to fixing the problem. They're not willing to take that extra step to go beyond the problem and go to the solution. And then this last one, from independence to interdependence, we have that teachers are not isolated. So we are working together, we are collaborating, we're not stuck in our classrooms alone. But I don't think that we have signs of interdependence being used as effectively as it could. So that might be that next step. We're collaborating, we're sharing with each other, but we're not doing it as effectively as we could. So the big conversations we had were about the shift in professional development. So the first question that we had talked about short-term exposure to multiple concepts and practices. So we have a little bit of exposure to a lot of things instead of a lot of exposure to one thing that we want to focus on. So that's kind of what we talked about, how we're trying to tackle too much instead of tackling one thing really well in our PDs. As far as assessing the impact of professional development on student needs. As a school, we are definitely assessing how PD impacts us and whether we're satisfied with the PD, but we're not going that extra step to see if the PD is actually impacting student learning and student achievement. So that's something we need to work on. And then this last one, from learning by listening to learning by doing. Overall, we're attending PDs. We're not really sitting and listening to a lecture. I feel like our PDs are very much discussion-based. But we're also not doing a lot. So at the end of a PD, we don't have a product in our hand ready to go. We didn't create something. We have a lot of good ideas and we've discussed a lot of things, but we felt that this is where our PDs needed to move. Where at the end of PDs, we had something hard copy in our hand that we can go and implement and try. So this is what we found with the survey, and I think it's very useful for our PLC and a school as a whole to see kind of where we need to go in those next steps. So these are the next steps that we created together, and I kind of organized them. As far as improvement in our school culture, we decided that the English department PLC will model how effective PLCs should run. Each PLC will have discussions and create a plan for what responsibility looks like. So not giving every PLC a script of what every PLC meeting should look like, but giving them an idea and giving them the time to sit down and figure out what it should look like together. And then also that administration will attend every PLC at least once a month to ensure that teachers are really using that formative data in setting those short and long-term goals. And then improvement in professional development, we thought, and we really liked that we had, we were allowed to take surveys to meet our professional development needs, so we weren't having to go to professional developments that we didn't feel like we needed. So we wanted to continue to do that, but also break those PD opportunities into 3 yearly sessions. So if I think that I want to focus on technology, that's where I need to grow in my professional development, then every session that we have, I would be going to technology. I'm not going to technology and then thinking strategies and then workshop model to get a lot of information. Every PD I would be going to the same thing and kind of reviewing. Also, training those teachers. So we have a lot of teachers now who are leading PD, which is great. We're using our resources in our building, but we need to train those teachers how to lead professional development by having participants create a product. So we're not lecturing at them, we're not having a discussion, but these teachers are now leading teachers in creating a product that they can go and implement and work on. And then lastly, providing more opportunities for teachers to go professionally by observing others' classrooms. I think we all agree that we learn the best and we grow the most when we're able to observe other teachers and reflect on that and have other teachers observe us and reflect on that. So these are kind of the next steps that we came up with and that we plan on implementing. And these next slides are for me to do. So do you have any questions about this research or anything that you think we should continue doing or start doing?